Welcome to Vator Box. I'm Bambi Francisco.
And I'm Ezra Roizen.
This week we have Aiden Senkut. He is a very active angel investor. He's invested in about 40 startups in the past couple of years. So Aiden is our guest host today, and this week we're going to take a look at Jigsaw, which is a crowdsourcing, open source database company. We're going to watch Jim Fowler give his pitch.
I'm Jim Fowler, CEO and co-founder of Jigsaw. Jigsaw is a directory of company and contact data that is built and maintained by a global community of business professionals, salespeople, recruiters, and marketers. The business problem we solve is that salespeople, recruiters, and marketers spend a huge amount of time trying to find contact and company information to drive growth of their business. This information is very dynamic. It goes bad quickly, it's incomplete, there's duplicates, it's dead records, etc. By taking a community of business professionals and having them build and maintain the database, we can create a directory of company and contact data that is far more complete, more accurate, and larger than any individual data company can provide or any individual company can provide. So our database is then sold to, the way we make money is we sell our database to corporations for the purposes of providing them data so they can grow their business, and then managing and maintaining their data on the back end in a way that helps them grow their business.
I thought that was a great pitch.
Excellent pitch. And he understands his business. The nice thing about it is it's a pretty defined thing they're trying to do right now. And there's a lot of directions it can go, but it's pretty clear as to what they're up to at the moment.
And it's clear they're addressing a very key pain point for which there aren't a lot of good alternatives. In fact, I did this keynote last week, and one of the impressive stats that I saw is that average per household spend on direct telephone-based marketing is $1,000, and for direct mail is almost $600, and yet internet advertising is lower than $200.
Right.
So obviously there's a lot of money in this field.
Yeah, direct is a huge, huge business. When you see the graphs, I agree. It's like the biggest chunk of the advertising pie.
Let's talk about novelty. I love the exchange, information exchange idea. You give me information, I'll give you information.
I think they nailed that. And we struggled with this in the early days of Vator, trying to figure out how to do things for people to keep their stuff current and get engaged. And we went a different route, or Bambi, you did. But the reality is, in their case, they did a great trade-for-trade model, and it created a huge amount of volume early. And so their initial sort of burst was huge, because they created a model where people could give information, get information, and you were all constantly rewarded. And people talk about virtual currencies and point systems and so on, and these guys absolutely nailed it. So they were constantly rewarding you for keeping things current, for adding that next little bit, for keeping the phone number current, and they dinged you if you did things wrong, and they did a nice job basically optimizing the model to get people to constantly be updating the data.
So there is no doubt that there is huge commercial potential here, and the fact that the company is profitable and they already have around 16 million profiles definitely speaks to that. What I'm curious about is, given that LinkedIn has more than 40 million users and Facebook has around 300 million users, why is that number just 16 million after 4 or 5 years? And the other thing that personally was, again, a big question mark for me is, there's no doubt, again, there is huge commercial need for this, but personally, do I really want people to easily gain contact information about me? So I did a search, and obviously my name and company is on there, and people can gain access information for that. And there is a privacy concern a little bit, and I'm sure this has come up before with them, is how do I, as a person who has contact information there, address that?
Yeah, I think that privacy is a bunch of bull. I actually don't think that they're doing anything wrong here, because if you think about Wikipedia, I have a profile on Wikipedia where apparently I live in Boston with my fiance and 2 daughters, which is so far from the truth. But the fact of the matter is, if that were true, somebody would be giving up my information. People are giving up information all the time. There's nothing wrong with giving up information that's an email, or how is that different from my personal situation that people are uploading all the time?
I mean, I guess I'm in the middle. I think there's a credible point, and TechCrunch ran the article that said, Jigsaw raises money, still evil, which is a funny headline. But there's people who are concerned about their private information, and if you're a high-profile CEO or something that's going to get a ton of inbound, all it's going to cause you to do is just change your email to something else, and the race will continue on. And so I think there is a concern. Same time,
I think it's overblown.
I think it's a great company. I think there's almost no way to avoid it. So the question becomes, how do you put filters in place to deal with people's inbound? And I don't really know how much inbound people really truly get.
But I think, to your thing about 15 million versus hundreds of millions, I mean, this is, if you ever looked at their database, so I use it. I do use this because I do look for emails of people that are in marketing or, the people, the right people, the appropriate person that I need to find to do my business. I can't do that on Facebook, and I wouldn't want to conduct that type of, I'd actually rather have an email with a person to conduct business with them.
Now, that's a good point, and certainly I was in the data mining field, and one of the biggest challenges of being able to do successful CRM and successful campaigns is clean data. You cannot get intelligence if the data, the underlying data, is not good. Right. And obviously, this is one of the most important problems they're solving, and it's a commercially very lucrative problem to solve. My point in that is, obviously they're solving that problem and they're doing good business, but I feel the real innovation in this space is going to happen with a contact management company that can aggregate all the contacts and update it. Like, I'm surprised, for instance, like Plaxo hasn't done it. I'm surprised there are a lot of these business social networks have a huge opportunity to do that and aggregate contact information, and yet none of them have quite addressed it. And so the question is, have they reached the peak? How much more growth do they have? Are they going to slow? Or is this a company that can still significantly increase the number of their profiles, significantly expand their business? It seems like an enterprise class business with a complex channel strategy. My personal take on it is they're doing great, but I would feel that their growth is limited. So I would not be as interested in this company.
Yeah, I think all fair points. I think, though, that there's, on one hand, you have Thomson Reuters, you have Dow Jones,
Dun & Bradstreet.
Well, and Dun & Bradstreet, Hoovers, and so you have companies that have made businesses out of providing this information. So this information, albeit private, has been out there for a long time. The question is just how much you've been willing to pay to get it. On the other side, you have the big list managers like InfoUSA, Axiom, White Page, Yellow Page support companies. Essentially, they're huge, lead gen type database companies. So these guys kind of fall in the middle, and I think they can go both directions. For me, what's great about this is I take Crunchbase and I take Jigsaw and I replace the need for a Thomson Reuters $20,000 subscription, which is great. So I pay $20 a month to Jigsaw, I pay nothing to Crunchbase, and I have a very nice solution for essentially knowing what's going on in the industry and getting contact information from people I want to ping. So that's pretty disruptive. So were I those guys, I'd be very worried. Were I the big database guys, I'd be looking at this saying, is this a new model I can use to bring down my essentially cost of goods sold for keeping high-end professional data, B2B data current. So Hoovers, for example, would be a logical friend of theirs.
They're already doing a deal with Hoovers.
I'm sure Hoovers is all over these guys.
So
I think that, and I guess the question becomes, sure, I think you're going to reach a point where there's only so much you can grow. My guess is they still have a ways to go at the professional data tier, and there's still a fair way to go. Then the question is, what do you do with the data once you have the engine essentially running? How can you really monetize that beyond just the subscription fee?
And also, just to kind of add a constructive point, I think the potential for them is kind of like what Facebook has shown. The reason why Facebook is so valuable is they don't just have social network or social graph, but they also have preferences and they have a long history of different information and different actions. So the question is, can they turn the database that they have and put a value-add data layer on top of that in terms of where people are leaning and preference information of some sort? I think that's when the true potential of this company can be unleashed.
And I actually pinged somebody the other day, which I thought this was a very clever feature on Jigsaw. So I'm a paying subscriber, use it all the time. I think it's a great service.
Just on that point, they don't make money just from the $20 subscriptions. It's $100,000 license fees to access their 16 million.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think that's probably where it really gets going. What was interesting was I went in and I pulled up, I don't remember who it was, I think it was somebody at AOL, but I was pinging somebody and I pulled up their information, and a little thing popped up and said, this is how I like to be contacted. So versus fighting the system, the person actually went in and used some features in Jigsaw to explain to the user their preferred method of contact, and if you were going to contact them, this is what I liked. And so I thought that was actually a very good approach, which is this person went in Jigsaw, configured their profile, knew they couldn't fight the tide, and said, rather than trying to fight the tide, here, I'm going to take ownership of this process, but here's what you need to do if you want to ping me. That was a very, very clever approach. That's value add, because now I know how to approach this person the way they want to be approached, which is useful.
That is useful. Okay, last words?
I think it's, I think there are issues. I think there's going to be a bit of a backlash over time, but at the same time,
overblow those. Come on.
no. But at the same time, I think it's a great company, and I think that they're innovative. And I don't think in the long run people need to figure out ways to work with these kinds of services, not against them, because they're going to be out there anyway.
Privacy issue aside, again, I'm not a huge fan of the enterprise sales model. Having said that, they definitely addressed an important pain point. And like I said, I think the true potential of the company is in the added layers of data, such as the preferred way of being contacted and so on and so forth. And that's where the new growth for this company could be.
Okay. Well, I think it's a brilliant company. It's an excellent company. They've done a great job, and I think they're going to be acquired for a nice sum.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. There you have it. Jim, CEO. You've been watching Vator Box. I'm Bambi Francisco. We'll see you next time on Vator News.